I thought we would perhaps start with not quite the front pages, but some other stories and a little bit of joy, which is the blood donation problem that the NHS is having at the moment. We were on an amber alert for lack of blood supplies, but nearly 10,000 Brits have signed up to become donors, which just, I think, goes to show you the strength of feeling the British people have and how good we are at coming together in a crisis. The only problem is there aren't enough staff to take the blood and look after them with a cup of tea and a biscuit after they've donated. So I think the new health secretary needs to be on that case. But I just think it's a real indictment of how good the British people are in things like this, which, opposed to the Just Stop Oil, which you mentioned, protesters blocking roads and stopping people getting disabled children to school and ambulances coming across. So I think, this shows the two sides of Britain at the moment. And sort of moving on to another sort of woke story, which will anger people. Convicts get to choose who will be hired as their wardens. And I think
this April the 1st. Let's just check the date, shall we?
It does feel a little bit like it. It's a jail in Sutton in Surrey, which holds 1,200 adult male prisoners, and they'll be given a choice. So it now looks like Justice Secretary Brandon Lewis is being asked to intervene to stop this, and quite rightly so. I don't see how we can allow that one to run through. You get to choose who looks after you on a daily basis when you're in prison.
It's this sort of thing, though, that gets people really furious.
Yeah.
We're reading at the time in the papers. In fact, I've stopped reading some of them because I find them so distressing and depressing. The violence, the attacks, the deaths, people, whether it's chopping people's hands off with a machete, whether it's people killing young children in neonatal wards. And we're finding out now these people are going to choose how they spend their time in prison and who is the warden. I mean, it just makes people's blood boil. We don't want that. We want people who've committed a crime at whatever level to serve their sentence and serve it in a way that we've got discipline, we've got respect, they know they can't do it, and it isn't a cushy number in prison. I mean, that just... you've set me off on one, Claire. What can I tell you?
Well, talk about setting me off on one. I'm going to set off. You mentioned Just Stop Oil, Claire. And this has been in the papers all week, really, because I think they're on day 14 or something of their protest. These absolute lunatics sitting in the road, gluing themselves to the road and whatever. But the thing that really gets me is that I actually walked out of Parliament the other day onto the street.
You didn't actually walk out as in he went to leave to go somewhere else.
I was going somewhere else, and I went out of the gates at Parliament, and there was absolute carnage going on around Parliament Square. And there were these, I don't know, a dozen lunatics who'd glued themselves to the road around Parliament Square. And that was bad enough, right? That was bad enough. That was bad enough to get me going. But the thing that really got me going is, I'm not joking, there must have been a minimum of 100 police officers around Parliament Square, stood looking at them, and cordoning off the roads, cordoning off the pavements, while they literally just sat there looking at them. And, look, I've always been a massive supporter of the police.
Philip obviously let it be known that he was unhappy with 100 police standing round doing nothing, didn't you, Phil?
I did. I've always been a massive supporter of the police, massive supporter of the police. But even I'm finding it difficult to support the police on occasions, and this was one. And I did go up to a few police officers and say, would you mind actually, I felt like Sergeant Wilson off Dad's Army, would you mind awfully, instead of just standing there looking at all of this, go and arrest these people and get the road open?